All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Rip Michael Jackson and that song. The song's going to be very relevant for today's topic. And as you guys can see, I'm out here in nature today. I've got the day off from my day job. I'm still doing some work out here, but out in nature and enjoying the nice weather. It's the day of the first day of the Passover for anybody that's familiar with any biblical holidays, so that's also pretty exciting. But really, I'm doing what I do, but I'm done with a lot. And so this is the title for today's video, is that I'm done. That there are fates worse than death, right? We are in a grave stage where I'm starting to realize that what we need to do now is realize that, collectively speaking, because there's a hurdle for everybody that's able to take action at this time in our society. There are many people that know and see what's actually going on, and there are many people that want to speak up, but they don't really think that they can because it'll jeopardize their whole being. It'll jeopardize their families. And I'm not going to sit here and ask you guys to speak the truth in a way that hurts your ability to put food on the table for your families. But we have to realize that if we don't stop the juggernaut in this psychological warfare that we're participating in, there's not going to be any food to put on your table anyway. So we have to recognize that we are in a delicate situation right now, and the future of our children and our grandchildren and giving them a world that is worth living in is growing less and less possible by the day. We have people out here that, shockingly, like, I'm legitimately shocked to see how little people care about the state of our civilization. And then I'm also not going to say that I'm worried, because I'm not necessarily worried about what's to come. I know it's going to come, and I know that it's always going to be a possibility for what's coming is going to actually always be there as a possibility. You know, the potential for evil is always there. And I would rather live in a world where it's more possible for you to participate in good than be forced to do good and in general. And the reason for that is because then you actually get the choice to be who you want to be. You actually get the choice to behave the way that you want to behave. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out here that just could not care less. And by the way, I hate it when people say, I could care less. It's like, damn it, say it right. I could not care less. Anyway, side note. But seriously though, we have to understand that the odds of winning this psychological battle, the battle of psychological warfare right now hangs in the balance of you, the individual. Because there are some things that group solutions just cannot solve. This is going to be an individual solution that we have to have, and that you have to have. You have to make the solution for yourself, and you have to make the solution for yourself. And so, again, I'm not going to sit here and encourage you that if you're in a situation that is precarious, to participate in any kind of behavior that is going to jeopardize your family. But at the same time, if we don't speak up, if we don't start speaking the truth, it's not going to look good for us. And it already isn't looking good. And so what I would encourage everybody to do is understand that, yes, the state of affairs are actually worse than we think, and accept that, but don't dwell on it. We can't dwell on the fact that things are actually worse than we realize, because else we'll just start to go crazy. And some of this stuff will make you crazy. If you just look around and you take an understanding of everything going on, it's like the whole information base that we have right now is so proliferated, so everywhere, that it's almost hard to even try to begin to understand like what is what and where's where and how's how. It's almost as if there's some kind of mischievous plan or diabolical essence that is on the flip side. But that is not my greatest concern. And this is something that I posted about in the newest community post that I made. Is that I'm not necessarily worried that there is some puppeteer trying to make everybody else puppets. What I'm worried about is nobody's got a frickin' clue what's going on. And so the best thing that we can do is to just be informed and make decisions accordingly. I'm not telling you what to think, I'm not telling you how to behave, but I'm giving you the best information that I possibly can to wake people up. It's your job. If you're awake, it's your job to wake people up. And so I know for a fact that there are ways of living this life that are more hellish than you can possibly imagine. If anybody has not read the Gulag Archipelago, go take a read of that. That'll give you some insight for sure. Read Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment and get a look inside to the mind of someone that actually is a criminal, but doesn't necessarily want to be. He kind of is forced into the situation, and he doesn't really like it, but he's forced to make the decision to make a murder in this character that he has in the book. And also, if anybody has not read, there's a plenty of good books on the Nazi regime, but if anybody wants to take a look at Mein Kampf as well, that's a scary book, man. Mein Kampf was written by Hitler, and he basically gives a detailed explanation and description on how to basically give an opioid to the masses, as Karl Marx would describe it. Now, what exactly is the opioid to the masses? Well, it's a mechanism and a pathological ideology in which breeds itself. And this is actually something that Hitler says to do in Mein Kampf, is that the first task of propaganda is to learn how to make itself breed. And all you have to do is play on the emotions of other people to do that. And he gives a whole detailed outline, man. Like, it is just, it's wild. But I would encourage you to read that, not because you're wanting to be evil, but because you need to understand evil. You need to understand that evil is actually in this world, and that there is a force for good and a force for evil fighting to this day. And as long as we're alive, it's going to continue that way, but it's not supposed to be I mean, I guess, who am I to say what it's supposed to be? But in my estimation, what's going on right now is not prosperous. And this is the whole point of my business that I have, the people that I work with, everybody going on together. This is all my purpose, is to empower people to prosper, because I know what it's like to not prosper. I know what it's like to live a life where you basically are shackled due to all of the things that you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know, right? And so yesterday, we have a weekly call right now in the school community. It's basically a private community for the Regal Change Academy. And in the weekly call, shout out to Angel, he made a very good point. And at first, if I'm being completely honest, I laughed a little bit at it because I thought it was counter to everything that I possibly was preaching for and against for the past year and a half on this channel and just in my life in general. But something he said when I asked the question was, well, what do we do now? How do we start to have faith in the works again, basically? And he said that we need to start being the villain. I was honestly a little bit shocked because that's not what I thought was going to be an answer at all. And I was like, to be honest, have you been listening to anything I've been saying? But then afterward, I pondered it a little bit, and I now understand what he means to say, because we have to look at it through a certain kind of lens, but also realize that we're going to be seen as the villains. I mean, we already are being seen as the villains. God's people are seen as the villains. God's people are speaking the truth, and they're freaking hated for it. And I'm not even trying to piss people off. I'm just trying to give a message. And people are super upset about it. It's like, well, I'm just trying to do my best to wake people up, because I understand as someone that is awake, it's my sacred responsibility to speak the truth into existence. And so when he said, well, we have to start being the villain, I was like, no, no. But now I understand. Now I get what he's saying. I understand what he means now. So thank you for that correction, because even though at face value it doesn't really mean much, I understand what he means on the deeper level now, and I've been meditating on it. And this is something that we're all going to have to do, right? Again, I'm not going to encourage you to destroy what you've built. But guess what? Me just doing these kinds of videos, I'm sacrificing just to try to get the truth out. I'm making sacrifices each day. Whether it's my career, whether it's my livelihood, my safety. I've literally had people in my community think that I'm a villain until they realize down the line, years later, oh, he was actually just trying to do the right thing. And I've had people say that to me. I've literally had people in my community where I was doing something that they thought was wrong. They called me sexist, they called me racist, they called me misogynist, whatever. I've been called every name in the book, guys. But anyway, so all these things happen. And it wasn't until years later where they realized, oh, he was just trying to do the right thing. And some of them don't always feel that way. Some of them don't see that other side. Some of them still see me as the enemy, as the villain. And that's fine. They can see me as the villain, but I know ultimately that I love humanity and I want to see us prosper. And the only way that we're going to be able to make proper decisions, this is another thing. I want everybody to make their own decisions. Everybody deserves the chance to have unrestrained information, right? Everybody deserves the opportunity to make decisions for themselves, but first they have to have the information. If they don't have any kind of information and the proper information, then you're basically, when you limit the amount of information and the kind of information people can get, what you're basically saying is you're too dumb for me to give you things that I don't think you can handle. And sometimes that's not always the case, but a lot of the times it is. So I'm done. I'm recognizing the fabric of reality and the thread that hangs in the balance. And yes, there are fates worse than death. So speak the truth. That's going to be my encouragement. And that's the way that we need to take action now, is we need to start speaking the truth. To speak is to create. And I'll leave you all with that. With that being said, peace be with you, and may the grace of Jesus be with us all.